So welcome back. So now we will going to discuss about what are the antibiotics available to disrupt the cell membrane. So now here let me discuss a problem associated with the cell membrane disruption antibiotics. So first thing is we are using cell wall antibiotics, okay, no problem, because we human cells lack cell walls, so we don't need to bother about the selective toxicity of penicillins because they will going to target only the cell wall and our human cell lacks it, right? Similarly, the DNA and RNA synthesis inhibitors that we have used are not too much susceptible for human cells. Because why? Because the DNA and RNA synthesis in case of bacteria is far more quite different from our human cells DNA RNA synthesis, okay? But there is a problem, let me introduce, that you can face during antibiotics you are using for disruption of the cell membrane. So idea is almost every cells in every organisms have cell membrane, okay? Now the composition of the cell membrane for each and every organism are more or less same, okay? So that is the problem, but luckily there are some unique characteristics of the cell membrane for bacteria and fungi present that our human cells lacks, okay? So we can use those kind of characteristics or those kind of properties of the cell membrane to construct or to develop antimicrobial agent, okay, that will specifically target only those unique properties that is only present in bacterial and fungal cell. Our normal animal cell will especially do not have that particular property. If have, then we cannot use this, okay? So there are mainly two kind of antibiotics present for cell membrane disruption. One is polymyxin. So this polymyxin is a polypeptide antibiotic and it is acting as a detergent, okay, and distorts the cell membrane by binding with the phospholipid. Remember, one of the most important constituent of the cell membrane is the phospholipid, okay? Now with this distortion, the substance that is present inside along with the cytoplasm will no longer be regulated by the membrane protein, and as a result cell lysis will occur, which will cause cell death, okay? So now these polymyxin type antibiotics are mostly useful for treating any kind of gram negative bacteria infection because they have a outer cell membrane which is rich in phospholipid, okay? Now another kind of antibiotic, that is Polyene antibiotic, for example Amphotericin B. We will going to see about the mode of action of Amphotericin B along with cresofulvin in our upcoming videos, so don't worry about this. But for now, just remember that Polyene antibiotic will bind with specific sterols. Let me introduce the name of the sterol, that is ergosterol. We will going to discuss about ergosterol and how amphotericin B by binding with the ergosterol blocks or causes lysis of the fungal cell, okay? So now one important line, that is the last part of our today's video, that is polymyxin will not going to act on fungi. That means those kind of detergent like polypeptides that we have discussed, okay, and polyenes that are usually involved in fungal disruption do not act on bacteria, okay? So that is quite important for MCQ purpose, okay? So that was the concept of disruption of the cell membrane function. There are various cells present and all cells have various kind of cell membranes, okay, and the composition of the cell membranes are nearly similar, but there are luckily some important characteristics that only bacteria and fungi have. We can use those kind of characteristics for the antimicrobial agent construction because those kind of characteristics are not present or absent in human cell, okay? So now, for example, we have discussed two kind of antibiotic. One is polymyxin antibiotic, which is a polypeptide and it is acting like a detergent, okay? It will cause the destruction of the cell membrane by binding with the phospholipid. Okay, now which will facilitate the cell lysis. Now we have also discussed about that those polymyxin are gram negative bacteria susceptible antibiotic. That means they can act against gram negative bacteria because of the presence of the outer membrane which is rich in phospholipid. Okay, now we have also discussed about Polyene antibiotics. These Polyene antibiotics are, for example, Amphotericin B will target particular sterol and facilitates the disruption of the cell membrane, and as a result cell lysis. Okay, so and the last important line, that polymyxin, that are those polypeptide and detergent like antibiotics, will only act on bacteria, not on fungi. But Polyene, who are specially involved in disruption of the fungi, do not help you to treat bacterial infection. So that was the concept of cell membrane. So in the very first video we have discussed about DNA RNA synthesis inhibitors, then we have completed the folic acid pathway synthesis inhibitors, and then we have completed the cell wall synthesis inhibitors, and now the disruption of the cell membrane, that means cell membrane inhibitors. So we have only one topic left, that is protein synthesis inhibitor, that we will going to cover in the next video.